Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minute here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. This time I'm taking a look at this, the 1/72nd scale RNLI Shannon class lifeboat from Airfix. So join me as I get stuck inside the box and see what this kit is like. So I actually had this on pre-order as soon as we heard that it was going to be released, but only just getting round to taking a look at it now because I've just been so busy with other things. So starting off on the front, we've got this rather exciting image of the Shannon class lifeboat on a stormy sea, obviously being put to good use. Up on the top right here, it says that a minimum of 90p from the sale of this product will be paid to support the RNLI. And over here on the left hand side, we've got, I'm not sure if that's a CAD image or if that's a genuine image of a model which has been built using the kit. Bottom left, we have a item code of A55015. At the top here, it just tells us that as this is a starter set, it's going to come with some poly cement, 2 paintbrushes and 6 acrylic paints. So it's a slightly larger starter set. On the edge here, we do have some information about the real Shannon class lifeboat, and we have some dimensions: 190 millimeters in length, 63 millimeters in width, and there are 54 parts included. We have another rendering or image here of the included kit, and then we have one flying hour, which is a coupon. Cut that out, keep it. If you're in the club, you can use it to get more kit or send it to Models for Heroes for them to redeem for their charitable work. And we have a skill level of 1, so it's supposed to be a fairly easy model to build. On the thin edge, we just have the same information, which we have already covered, and then on the long edge on the bottom, we have some other bits and pieces of information. We have a design and tooling date just here of 2024 and decal scheme and pack design of 2024. So this is the first release of 2024 with this particular paint scheme. They could do other versions, other releases with different lifeboats, because there are a number of them. This is 1301. I'm sure there's a 1302 and 1303 and so on and so forth. I do know that Airfix did actually release a new decal set with the other vessels on it, but I haven't as yet managed to pick one up. I was tempted to do a different variant rather than the one that's been included here. So I guess we'll see what happens there. Over here, it tells us that it's made in India and the UK, and also we have a Cartograph logo for Cartograph decals, which means that the decals should be to a really nice quality. On the back here, then, we have our painting and decal placement instructions printed in full color, which makes it really easy to see what's going on, and we have our 6 different color paints down here annotated. So what I'm going to do is get inside the box and see what the contents are like. As you can see, this is the first time I've actually been in this box. I've not been tempted to have a rummage. There we go. Right, so let's have a look. Big-ish sheet of decals. Before you start, so these are the little help sheets that every starter set from Airfix will have. Generic information on how to build the kit. Yes, I know it has a Spitfire, but the skills are transferable. We have our instructions, which are to the usual format from Airfix. Information about the actual lifeboat at the top, and then some health and safety warning underneath. We turn over the page. We are met with a sprue map or contents list, and because it's a starter set, they do have some extra hints and tips on how to help you, such as removing excess bits of plastic. And also, when we come to the actual steps, we have our sprue map. It indicates which parts you need at that step, and it is sort of shaded in color, so you know which color to paint, but also the yellow indicates where you should be placing glue, so you don't go above and beyond and sort of ruin your model in the process. So we build our display stand to start with, or the cradle, and then we attempt to build our hull. And you can see it's got a number of different parts which join it together and make it nice and secure. And then we turn over the page and we add our deck to our hull. Then the propellers on the back, or I'm not sure they use propellers these days. Do they use like some sort of jet thrusters to propel it through the water? And then we have the sort of cabin being worked on, and you see they've painted it all in orange. And then we have clear parts that need to go on the inside, and that can be added onto our deck. On the bottom of the boat, we've got some extra bits and pieces which need to be glued on, and then some smaller details and railings and things on the top as well. And that will continue. There are some more railings in each step, but they've expanded it out rather than making it too busy to look at. Continue with more additions of railings, and then another clear part up here for the sort of external control area. Then this part of the superstructure gets put on. I presume this is where they have elements of their radar. And then sort of aerial masts and things. I don't really know a great deal about the lifeboat, but you know, these things are being represented. And then we get to the end of the build and we should have a model that looks like this, and we can put it onto our little cradle, but we don't need to glue it on because it could be removable. I wonder if it will float. That'd be interesting. I wonder if anyone's actually motorized this and turned it to like an RC kit. So this is what it should look like, but the painting instructions that we had on the back of the box should be used in conjunction. So we will look at the decals. We've got a reasonably large sheet of decals here, printed by Cartograph, and to a pretty nice quality as well. So we've got our bands here, and they're printed in two-tone. Registration looks pretty good, no overlap. The text is legible. The RNLI logo looks pretty nice. No blemishes, cracking, or registration issues that I can see. I don't generally have any issues with Cartograph transfers. Hopefully, I know that these are long decals, but hopefully they don't present too much of a challenge when they are applied to the model. Before we look at the plastic parts, we'll look at the accessories. We have two brushes. One is a number 4, one is a number 0. So the 0 is more of your detail work. They look to be generally acceptable. They're much better than the brushes that I had in my youth as part of Airfix starter sets. They do just need a little bit of a clean before use, but yeah, that's fine. And then we have 2 bags of paints. I'm sure they said we were only supposed to get 6 paints, but I seem to have extras for some reason. But we'll open them up and have a look. Yeah, so the box says on the top there 6 acrylic paints, and we should have a 15, an 18, which I've got 2 of, a 27 there, a 33 there, another 27, a 56, 34. I have another, I presume that's a 33, and I have another, I have an 11. Well, that's a 56. 11 is silver, 56 is aluminium. So I have an extra colour. I'm not going to complain. Bit unusual. Only 1 blue, 2 oranges, 2 greys, 2 blacks, 1 white, 1 aluminium, 1 silver. So I actually have more than 6. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10. I've got 4 bonus ones. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a mistake or if other people have experienced this as well. Perhaps they realised that having only 1 pot wasn't quite enough, so they've just added another bag effectively. Don't know. Well, let's have a quick look and see how the quality is. So 15 is our blue. That looks okay. So there is a bit of a thing with the paint pots. If it's in these sort of flappy top bottle or pots, they are the sort of new pots. There was a problem with the pots like this, where they don't seal quite correctly, and there is a risk that there is dry paint inside. So we'll have a look. I hope that there isn't. It's a bit solid. It's not particularly runny. I could recover that. It's still wet, but it's not like runny paint. I could recover that with a bit of thinner. That's the same. That one's actually more dry than the one I just looked at. 27. So we've got 27 in the old pot. It's a little dry. It's a little bit like gelled. But yeah, I could use that. 27 in the new pot. See how much more wet that is. Just a bit of a mix and we'll be good to go. 33 black in the new pot. Yep, no issues there. And then 33 black in the old pot. Actually, that one doesn't look too bad. It's still a little bit jelly, a little bit dried out. See, the problem with these pots, I don't know if you'll hear it. It's very subtle. They don't quite seal. It creates like an air pressure on the inside, and then there's a little gap. And every time I can just feel like it just pops open a little bit. Every time you press it down, the air compresses and pushes it back open again. So they dry out, unfortunately. These new pots like this, they don't have that problem. 34 is white. Yep, no problem there. 56 aluminium in the old pot. Okay, bubble there. I think that's all right. Pop the bubble. Yep, no, that looks okay. Oh, it's everywhere. Not a fan. See the pressure as I closed the lid, the pressure forced some of that liquid out. Right, so I've cleaned my hands off. So that's the problem with the old ones, is they create a bit of a pressure as you close the lid. And then 11, which is a silver. Yep, fine. That just needs a mix. So yeah, some questionable paints, but I've got more than I actually should have. So swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Put them to one side, which brings us on to the parts. And they all come contained within this big plastic bag. So let's get that open. Oh, as I had this with the Land Rover I looked at not long ago. Airfix starter sets now, they've gone away from putting like an external frame around the outside of their parts, which ultimately causes things to fall off a little bit frustratingly. I don't think anything's damaged, but things become loose. I get that it's a bit of a cost-saving activity. If you haven't got a frame of extra plastic around there, you're not paying for that extra plastic to be shipped. You're not paying for it to be molded. Also, at the user end, it's not, what does someone who never knows what to do with plastic sprues do? Do they just throw it away? Do they recycle it? Do they send it back to the model shop? Like, what do they do with it? So you're kind of reducing waste as well. I get that, but it is a bit frustrating if it runs the risk of parts being sort of broken. But anyway, let's have a look at our parts. We'll start with this one in dark grey plastic. It feels greasy. It feels more greasy than the Land Rover I looked at recently. Generally, the moulding is pretty nice, pretty decent moulding. There's nice little details all over it. That's where it was moulded, so it looks like they've not cut it right next to it, so that gives us a bit of the ability to clean that up. This was the bit that fell off. I don't remember what that's for. I think it's for the inside of the hull, when you do your hull, potentially. I don't know, to glue it together, but I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I think it's like that. So this is our hull. You can see ejector pin marks are on the inside rather than the outside, which is pretty good. Moulding looks pretty decent. And then we come on to this other loose part, which is B16. A little bit of flash here. I think that's again from where they've removed it from the sprue. They've not been so careful with that. It has a little bit of a scuff, which will need a bit of sanding to clean it up. A little bit frustrating, but the detail on this is pretty nice. No erroneous parts of flash. Then we have sprue B, which has our sort of bottom of our boat here. Other detail components, nice little grill work there, and a little door. That's pretty nice, isn't it? Again, ejector pin marks are on the internal side, which we're not going to see. We have our, I think this is part of our cradle here with extra bits of plastic that just need cutting away. And then we have sort of the finer details as well. We've got life rings here. We've got the aerial masts, which are molded pretty nicely. Smaller details. They've come out okay. And then we have all of our fine sort of, it's like the railings that go around the outside. That's not too bad. That one's snapped a little bit coming off of there. It's not, the part hasn't snapped. It has removed itself from the sprue gate, which isn't a problem, but no doubt caused by it being sort of able to freely move in the bag and there not being anything to sort of hold it in place around the outside. Like you can see on the edge here, this part here has shifted inwards because no doubt it's rubbed up against something in the box. So that does run a little bit of a risk of parts becoming damaged. The last bag we have then to look at are the clear parts, which I imagine are going to be absolutely great molding wise. So we don't have that much in the way of clear parts in here. We've got all of our main windows molded as a single part, and they look pretty good. Slight bit of dirt on there, but I've just rubbed that off. Is that a scratch on there? I think there is a slight scratch on this one, which is a little bit of a frustration, probably where they've pulled it out of the mold. But on the whole, plastic moulding is pretty good, pretty clear. The small one there has some framework on it, which is moulded to a nice level of accuracy. Yeah, pretty good. So that is pretty much it. We had one clear sprue with some reasonably nice clear parts. We had a number of grey dark plastic sprues which are moulded to a really nice quality with a good level of detail, but I do have my reservations about the fact there's no external framework, especially given that we have experienced parts that have come free from their relevant sprue. Not only did I experience it on this kit, but I also experienced it on the Land Rover, which I looked at recently. It had the same kind of issue. We had a very nice sheet of decals printed by Cartograph, and I may look at getting the sort of aftermarket set, which has the ability to pick a different lifeboat from the lifeboat fleet. Instructions, nothing really to complain about in there. And then we had two paintbrushes, which are, you know, of an acceptable quality. They'll do the job, one for finer work and one for slightly larger areas. And then we had loads of paint and a tube of glue. Paint, a little bit questionable. For some reason, I've got, what was it, 10 paint pots when I should only have 6. I've got some duplicates, but I've also got one that's not technically listed, which as a kid, I'd be like, oh, bonus paint, sweet, love it. But I wonder why that's happened. Also, some of the paints in the older pots are drying out, whereas the paints in the more modern or more new pots are still fine from the looks of it. Bear in mind, this is a 2024. I can see just as I do that, looking at this, it's not quite closed. There's a gap just around the rim, and I squeeze it and it closes, and then it's popped open again. So that's the problem with these pots. It compresses the air inside, creates an air gap. You think it's closed, but then it immediately reopens again. Absolute pain. Absolute pain. That's why they dry out. That's why they've replaced them with these. But I imagine it takes time for your old stock to get replaced with new stock. If for whatever reason you did have a problem with your paints, they were dry and you couldn't save them, do send a email to the Airfix spares department, and hopefully they'll be able to sort something out for you, because they don't want you to have a bad experience. And I think that pretty much brings this video to a close. All of these bits were contained within a rather beautiful box. I do really like the artwork on there. That's rather like sort of inspirational, isn't it? You kind of want to replicate the scene that's happening on there. I know I don't necessarily have the diorama skills for it, but it would be fun to give it a go. 2024 tooling, I'm looking at this just in 2025. Pretty decent quality wise, but there are still some little areas, particularly with the paints. Don't know what's going on there, and the fact that some of the parts have come off the sprue. But other than that, nothing really major of note. It'll be really interesting to see how this one builds up. So how much would you be paying for this one if you were buying it recommended retail price? Well, at the time of making this video in the UK, £19.99. So it's a larger starter set. It's not a small one. It's not necessarily a pocket money kit as such. You know, if you were a kid, you might have to save a couple of weeks in order to buy this one. But again, it's not going to be breaking the bank, especially with what we've seen inside here. The extra value, of course, being that you have paints and things included to get you started. As always, you can probably get this slightly cheaper from other retailers, or with any discounts that may be available to you, which is something I would always be looking at doing myself, because, you know, I hate spending money. And with that, I think it's probably time to call this one here. Please let me know down in the comments what you think of my review of this kit and whether my assessment of it was fair. As always, quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen, and if you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, take a look at the information in the description box under the video. Of course, the best way to support the channel for free is by subscribing with notifications turned on, so you never miss a modelling video. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.